What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to Picking a Fight. I'm Latch, and today we're going to be looking at UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. We're going to be looking at most of the card. But before we get started, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So we got the number 2 ranked featherweight, Max Blast Holloway. He's 23-7. He's 31 years old. He's 5'11" with a 69-inch reach. And he's coming off a loss to Alexander Volkanovski. And he's going up against the number 4 ranked featherweight, Arnold Almighty Allen. He is 19-1. He's 29 years old. He's 5'8" with a 70-inch reach, and he's currently on a 10-fight win streak in the UFC with his last 2 over Calvin Kattar and Dan Hooker. Arnold Allen has been quietly rising through the featherweight division. That was until his fight with Dan Hooker, where he put on an amazing performance in his home country. He just threw caution to the wind and finished Dan Hooker in the first. And with that win, he would earn a fight against the highly ranked Calvin Kattar. Although he won that fight by TKO, unfortunately, it was due to Calvin Kattar hurting his knee. But now he's set to fight the toughest fight of his career so far. He's fighting the number 2 ranked featherweight, the ex-featherweight champion Max Holloway. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a striker's delight. Arnold Allen, he does have some pretty good striking. His left hand out of his southpaw stance is absolutely money. Once he gets going, he really puts together some really good combinations. And he uses a ton of movement, which in this fight I think will be key. I think he's going to need to use his movement to frustrate and stall Max's offense. That low kick should also be a key in this fight. He should throw it a lot to make Max reset. Alexander Volkanovski kind of set a blueprint out on how to beat Max and how to stop Max from drowning you with his offense. Because Max is at his absolute best when he's the one leading the exchanges. Because when he's leading, he pushes the tempo to his pace, and there's not a lot of guys that can keep up with that. Max is really going to have to use a lot of his skills in this fight. He's going to have to walk Arnold Allen down and cut him off. Stop a lot of his movements. This could end up being a tough fight for Max because we have seen Arnold Allen lead and become very aggressive in his fights. And Allen will have to do that in this fight to have any type of success, in my opinion. Max is only 2 years old, but I do believe Max is the better striker. He's kind of been a veteran in the UFC so far. He was so young when he came into the UFC, fighting the top guys, and now he still is at the top. And I do think he's the better striker. I think it just comes more natural to him. And when he gets going, man, this guy gets going. But Arnold Allen does have all the tools to replicate the success that others have had against Max Holloway. That low kick is going to be key. And he has to make sure he's the one leading the exchanges, leading the dance, pushing his own tempo. Because if not, Max will drown him with his own. I think Arnold Allen has all the tools to beat Max here. He obviously comes from a great camp, great coaches. He has a good fight IQ. He knows when to get aggressive. I think this is honestly going to be a very tough fight for both guys. I think stylistically, this is a really fun fight. But I think Arnold Allen has all the tools to beat Max. I think this is going to be a close decision, and I think I'm going to lean to Arnold Allen. I just think he's going to figure Max out. I think he's going to be able to stop his tempo. I think he's going to lead most of the fight, and I think he's going to be able to stop the momentum of Max every time he gets going, make him reset. So I'm going to have to go Arnold Allen by decision. But this easily could turn into one of those classic Max fights where he just suns these guys. He could take Arnold Allen to school. That's a huge probability. The odds are pretty close. Max is a slight favorite at -155. Arnold Allen's an underdog at +135. So this fight is very close. I'm going to have to lean to Arnold Allen, but I would not bet on this fight. I think there's too many factors at play. Arnold Allen's very green. This is the biggest test of his career so far. He looked pretty good in the Calvin Kattar fight until he got hurt. It's very hard to go off of that little information, especially because Calvin Kattar starts to get hot later on in his fight. And of course, he fought Dan Hooker at featherweight, but he was coming down from lightweight. And Dan Hooker has never really been at the upper tier like a guy like Max Holloway. So it's going to be interesting. Let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating Max Holloway? Let me know down below. I'm interested to hear what you think. And let's go on to the next fight. So in the co-main event, we got the number 14th ranked featherweight, Edson Barboza. He's 22-11. He's 37 years old. He's 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. And he's currently on a 2-fight losing scale with his last 2 against Bryce Mitchell and Giga Chikadze. And he's going up against the unranked Billy Quarantillo. He's 17-4. He's 34 years old. He's 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. And he's coming off a win over Alexander the Great Hernandez. And man, Billy Quarantillo, he's an underrated gem when it comes to unranked fighters. If you're not a fan of Billy Q, chances are you've never seen him fight because he has a crazy engine and he can put on an insane pace. He always comes to fight, and I respect that. He showed up and he went to war with Alexander Hernandez, Shane Burgos, and Gabriel Benitez. And in my opinion, this will be no different. His striking isn't really the cleanest. He does tend to loop his punches a lot, but it's his output and his pace that really breaks his opponents. He's very durable. He has shown that he could take a punch. And I do think he's going to have to weather the storm early to have any success. He's going to take some damage while he gets his own pace going. And I think he has to hope that in the later rounds that Barboza slows down, because we've seen that before. Because there's no doubt in my mind that Barboza is the better striker. His striking is faster and much more technical I think his leg kicks will slow Billy Q down. You know, we saw in his fight against Shane Burgos that he struggled with those leg kicks. You know, he struggled to check them. You know, he struggled to check them or deal with them in any way. But Edson Barboza, he's a talented guy, man. And in this fight, he can do enough damage to win the rounds and probably win this fight by decision. But I think the biggest question is the pace. You know, can he win the early rounds and not fall into the tempo of Billy Q? Because we have seen Barboza gas before. In my opinion, he's going to have the most success on the feet. You know, the keys for Barboza is he needs to stop the takedowns because Billy Q loves to mix it all. So he's going to have to stop a few takedowns and make sure that he keeps his tempo when it comes to the striking. Because I do think if this fight hits the ground, Billy Quarantillo is the one with the advantage when it comes to the jiu-jitsu. I don't know if his wrestling will be enough to take down someone like Barboza. But if he does end up hitting the ground, I do think Quarantillo has a huge advantage there. But Barboza is a much more experienced striker. You know, he's fought the best of the best. You know, in a 3-round fight, he might be able to preserve his gas tank and not gas out. You know, finding Billy Quarantillo, he's such a wild card. He could break these guys down with his pace, and we've seen Barboza struggle fighting backwards. He struggles when people really put a nasty pace on him. I don't know if Quarantillo will be able to do that since Barboza does have a power advantage and a striking advantage, and he could hurt him pretty bad. Even though Quarantillo is very durable, so I'm going to have to go Barboza by decision. I just think he's much more experienced. He faced the much better fighters, but overall his resume is impressive. You know, he's beat some really good guys. He's shown that he's still there. Obviously, he's aged. You know, he's 37 years old compared to Quarantillo, who's only 34. You know, and Quarantillo could possibly be a very bad matchup stylistically. So I'm going to still have to give the edge to Barboza. So let me know down below, do you think stylistically this is a fight for Quarantillo to win? Or you think Edson Barboza's experience is just way too much? Let me know down below. I'm interested to hear what you think. And yeah, let's go on to the next fight. So we got the number 9 ranked bantamweight, Pedro the Young Punisher Munoz. He is 19-7. He's 36 years old. He's 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. And he's coming off a no contest against Sean O'Malley. And he's going up against the number 13 ranked bantamweight, Chris El Guapo Gutierrez. He is 19-3 with 2 draws. He's 31 years old. He's 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. And he's currently on a 4-fight winning streak with wins over Frankie Edgar, Baccarat Dana, Felipe Colares, and Andre Ewell. Chris Gutierrez is coming off back-to-back finishes, and both were insane. You know, he fought the veteran in Frankie Edgar and finished them with a perfectly placed knee. And before that, he finished Baccarat Dana with a spinning back fist that landed perfectly. You know, he's definitely proved that he deserves to be ranked. You know, he is a solid striker, and he uses a ton of movement to move laterally all fight, and it's very hard to hit. You know, he's got some nasty kicks. When he lands them, man, they sound thunderous. You know, he does seem to have pretty good takedown defense. But in my opinion, he should avoid hitting the ground at all costs because he's going up against a very tough competitor in Pedro Munoz. You know, Pedro Munoz, he's fought so many good guys at the highest level. You know, he fought Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo, and Frankie Edgar. And so I think this is a very good matchup for both guys. Obviously, they're close in rank. But a win here will show that Pedro Munoz can still hang with the top guys. And a win here for Chris Gutierrez could show that he does belong here, you know, and he's ready to move up. You know, Munoz, he has pretty good power. I think he will be chasing Gutierrez, but as we've seen before, that could end pretty badly for him. You know, Gutierrez's movement, it tends to leave these fighters restless because they're constantly chasing him, and he likes to walk guys into his shots, just like he did with Frankie Edgar in his last one. You know, I think Munoz will be the one with much more output. Sometimes Gutierrez lets the fight kind of get away with him with a lot of movement, and he becomes too reserved when it comes to his striking. But I think Gutierrez is going to use his movement to kind of lead Munoz into his shots, you know, counter Munoz when he gets reckless. And I think he's going to outpoint Munoz. I do think Munoz is going to mix it up, so I do see Chris having to stop a lot of the takedowns. But I do think he'll be able to, so I'm going to have to go with Gutierrez by decision. I think he's going to show that he belongs with the top guys. But let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating Pedro Munoz? Do you think he can still hang with the top guys and with the new guys coming up? Let me know down below. I'm interested to hear what you think. And yeah, let's go on to the next fight. So in the prelims, we actually got a flyweight banger. We got the number 4 ranked flyweight Brandon Raw Dog Royval. He is 14-6. He's 30 years old. He's 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. And he's currently on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Matt Schnell and Rogerio Bontorin. And he's going up against the number 5 ranked flyweight, Mateus Nicolau. He is 19-2 with 1 draw. He's 30 years old. He's 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. And he's currently on a 4-fight win streak in the UFC with wins over Matt Schnell, David Dvorak, Tim Elliott, and Manel Kopp. You know, Nicolau has been a sleeper contender, quietly and slowly making his way up the rankings. You know, now he faces one of the more recognizable names in Brandon Royval. You know, he has a huge chance here to make a statement and get some recognition. You know, he fights very smart and very reserved. You know, he uses a lot of lateral movement to circle around his opponent and eventually walk them into big shots. You know, I do think he doesn't have the most fan-friendly approach. I think that's probably why his popularity hasn't boosted up with his wins. But that's the complete opposite of someone like Royval. Brandon is a very exciting fighter. He's very tall and very lanky for flyweight. He does have some pretty sloppy striking, but he is super unpredictable. His recklessness is almost like a weapon for him because he is dangerous at all times. He does have the reach advantage in this fight, but he has shown that he is not really good at maintaining that range. If this fight hits the floor, his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very creative. He does have 7 wins by submission, but we have seen that his wrestling is pretty weak. He gets taken down very, very easily. When he does get taken down, though, he has shown that he is very active from his guard, whether it's from his back or he's on top. He throws a lot of punches, a lot of nasty elbows in there. He hasn't shown the best IQ, so in my opinion, he could get walked into a very big shot, and he has been hurt before. And I don't think we were gonna have to worry about the takedowns coming from Royval. That's just not his style, not his game. But trust me, he is not scared to go down there. Nicolau is a slight favorite at -155 compared to Royval's +135. This is 2 different styles colliding. Nicolau is more refined, more technical, fights with good IQ. Royval is very creative, very loose, and at times very reckless. It's going to be very interesting to see how these styles clash. But I'm going to have to give it to my boy Raw Dog Royval. I think his recklessness is going to cause Nicolau to come and fight, and I just don't think he's comfortable there. But Nicolau has shown that he is tough, so I don't think he'll be able to finish him. So I'm going to have to go Royval by decision. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Nicolau can get this done. In my opinion, the smarter fighter, the more technical fighter. So he could get this done if he fights very smart. But let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm overestimating Brandon Royval's abilities, or maybe you think I'm not giving enough credit to Nicolau? Let me know down below. I'm interested to hear what you think. And yeah, man, it's going to be a great night of fights. The return of Max Holloway facing off against Arnold Allen. And we got Edson Barboza going against Billy Q. Pedro Munoz against Chris Gutierrez. And Royval versus Nicolau. I'm still surprised Royval and Nicolau are on the prelims. I could have sworn it was going to be on the main card. I don't know what went into that decision, but they definitely deserve a main card spot. But yeah, it's going to be a great night of fights. Do not forget to tune in. And I'll see you next week for UFC Pavlovich versus Blades, another banger. But until then, take care.